Hello, ladies and gentlefolk of the internet, and welcome to Fortnightly Frontier, a Star Citizen podcast featuring me, your host, Darjanator, and my partner in crime, Myre. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for watching. This has been Fortnightly Frontier.
It's nice and concise this time around. I like it.
Yeah. I think we're shooting for the shortest podcast ever.
I know. Just because, like if Disco can do it, so can we, Like
We just but then surprise guest, Mark Tomei.
Surprise us who?
Tomei.
Oh. Right.
Yeah. And he will carry us.
Right.
To infinity and beyond,
yes.
lengthwise. Anyway, it's been news. Good news. News on everybody's mind. 3.1 is with Evocati.
Oh, yes.
And
it has been at the beginning of the month. They're now in patch 3.1. If it's to be believed.
Ooh,
on the Reddit.
Not ooh, E.
Yes, E. I'm not sure what that means exactly in terms of the development of the PTU or the Evocati, but they've gotten 3 iterations and stuff on it. There's been there's been some stuff, but not really much to really glean from things that have showed up on Reddit. There's not much we can talk about being members of the Evocati as well. But as you were saying,
a promise of grand proportions, 150 meters in length to be precise.
Yep.
The Reclaimer.
Indeed.
Do you have one?
Do I have one? I don't have a Reclaimer. I don't.
I don't either. Do we have access to one? Because I'd like.
Do we have access? A few viewers have Reclaimers, and I think, of course, people in Test Squadron most definitely have Reclaimers.
This is true.
I don't think there'll be shortage of Reclaimers to go and have a look at. In terms of gameplay that the Reclaimer holds for you and stuff like that, would you ever get a Reclaimer? I mean, like
no
salvage. Yeah.
In terms of gameplay, no, but in terms of how the ship is made, its size and scope and complexity, that's something I'm really digging.
Right.
Oh, hello. Yeah. That's the one. That's the beastie we're talking about. Because for what it is, for its size, it's still like a 5-crew ship.
5.
Yeah, and it's this is something that I think has been completely missing from Star Citizen. Well, not completely. The Starfarer was the first one to do that. Properly big ships, multi-crew ships, because you have the Constellation on one hand, which can carry 5 people. It has 5, room for 5 people, but I have a feeling that people will constantly be tripping over each other inside it because there's not much room. But the thing's huge.
Yeah,
there's actual room for you to get lost in.
Yeah.
Starfarer was the same, but this is even bigger. Yay!
And then we're going to get things like the Hull series as well. The Hull E is going to be another one of these massive behemoths that will require several people to actually run well. I mean, they've talked about having NPCs and such to help you do things that you don't necessarily need to play with other people.
That's not coming for a while.
For a while, yeah. But in terms of, I guess, the gameplay loops that Reclaiming and Salvage will be, I think that is on the agenda, not for this patch, but 3.2. But we'll have the Reclaimer in the game by the end of this month, just so you can see it in game, which I think is neat. I think that Reclaiming and Salvage and all that kind of stuff, and I'm just gonna call Reclaiming Salvage from now on because Reclaiming makes no sense. But Salvage is a mechanic that I didn't expect to see so soon in the game.
No, me neither. I mean, will it be just like game generated salvage that you could get, or would you actually go to a scene of a space battle between players or players and NPCs and get to reclaim or salvage their ships?
I mean, I guess it depends on whether
Because I don't think that mechanic is ready just yet.
Right. I mean, I guess it'll just depend on how the game addresses player corpses. Like if a player's ship blows up today, it despawns after a while. It would have to turn into an item that remains in the game for a reclaimer to then go ahead and go, okay, time to chomp, you know?
Yeah. It could be well, at least from the early beginnings.
I love this, by the way.
Yeah, this hard landing. I love the way they animated that.
It's so cool. It's so cool.
If only there was sound in space so we could hear the scraping and...
You can hear the sweat dropping down the conductor's like brow. He's like, "Oh my god, we just had that landing pad varnished." Anyway,
yeah. No, but I was thinking that at least from the very beginning they could just swap it for a static object without all its components that you could salvage, but basically just have it be a bunch of polygons that you can turn into resources.
Right.
So actual guns and power plants and shield generators, because that would still require all the tracking and updating that's bogging the servers down now.
Right.
So which is why ships despawn after being destroyed, because you don't want to track all of that all the time. Because then you can kiss goodbye to double-digit FPS forever.
Yeah,
probably.
I mean, like, or as a special somebody in our Twitch chat right now is saying, you either get far more homogenized or uninteresting ship hulls just to accommodate that, or just far less visually detailed or interesting blocks to make the swapping not a burden for the game. And that's from Mr. Matt Sherman, who's talking about what we're talking about right now on Twitch chat. For those who are watching on YouTube, if you hop on to, if you check us out on Twitch TV, you might be able to join like a ghost or shadow conversation happening behind the scenes. But
it's true, actually, Twitch does support that. If you watch a VOD, you can also see chat running alongside.
Yeah. But like in terms of what you mentioned before about having such a large, I mean, like, so the constellation for all intents and purposes was also pretty much like a 5-man maximum, like, you know, like everything working ship, yeah. But you can see everybody. You can, you know, like as you said before, you knock elbows with them. But like in a ship like this, which is orders of magnitudes, well, a couple, 2 or 3 times larger.
Yeah.
The chances of seeing somebody who is not necessarily doing the same thing as you is pretty slim, right? It's like you're working towards doing towards a unified task, but you may not necessarily even see them. Will that make the ship in? Oh, that's not a reclaimer.
No, that's not a reclaimer. I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, no, that's the lightning. But like, so would that make a ship of that size? I mean, would that make it less? I mean, would it make it lonely?
Some people like that. I mean, the Reclaimer has always brought, senses of like references to Alien, which is, you know, they admitted that that was a huge inspiration for it in the first place.
Right.
And, you know, you had people in engineering, you had people in the cockpit, you had people in the computer core, you know, everybody was doing their own thing. But then at the end of the day, you know, they also congregated in the mess hall or the dining room or whatever it was.
Right. And this will have it, actually. The ship does have a mess hall. It does. So yeah, I guess that makes sense. And also in the future, we'll have things like render to texture anyway. So if you wanted to hail somebody and talk to them directly as the captain, or, you know, like as just somebody who needs to talk to somebody else doing something else in the ship, you can.
Yeah.
So I think in that case, yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think the size of the ship would... It kind of invokes the sort of feeling of loneliness that you should get from space exploration, I think. Because, you know, in the end, you are basically on your own. And if you're also on your own on a big ship, that kind of cements the feeling even more in. Kind of makes it more visceral, I'd say.
Right, but on a multi-crew ship where that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, I know, but it can be the case because you can be stuck in your little part of the ship for half a day and not see anybody.
Right. That's true. That's true. That's fair enough.
Like, but you can in a constellation or even especially a freelancer. Freelancer, everybody's stuck in the cockpit for most of the time.
Yeah. So this will be the first ship. I mean, okay, so we have the Starfarer. So if we forget that the Starfarer exists, and maybe the cut, if we forget all the larger ships at the moment don't exist, this will be the first ship that's like totally non-combat and a non-combat multi-crew.
Well, it has defensive capabilities, but it's you wouldn't want to have it spearhead a battle. No, definitely.
No. So like non-combat multi-crew based on simply finding wreckage and salvage and salvaging it basically, taking it in and and it has what 5 distinct roles in the ship, and each role needs to be fulfilled in order for the gameplay loop of salvage to even work. Again, they've mentioned that you'll be able to have NPCs to do the work, but I think it'll be interesting, very interesting to see just how dedicated people will be to doing just one specific role on a ship, you know, for something like just salvaging, quote unquote, just salvaging, you know? Like, for instance, in the Reclaimer, to just gloss over the roles. Of course, you have the pilot of the Reclaimer. Then you have the tractor beams, and I believe there are 2 tractor beams, so that's 2 people on each tractor beam, right? Then you have...
Yeah. Or maybe it's because you have in the back behind the pilot, there's one person each side in their own little, almost like holopod little cockpit of their own.
Yeah.
Could be that one of them is for tractor beams, one for the claw, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Then you have the claw controller. I almost completely forgot about the claw controller. Then you have we're talking about 5. Yeah, sorry. So you have the pilot, you have the tractor beam, you have the claw, you have the refinery, and the grinder. Is the refinery and the grinder, is that 2 different roles?
I think it's the same thing. It's basically making sure that stuff gets ground up and refined.
Right.
I think the grinder is part of the refinery, but until we get do we even have a Q&A for the Reclaimer?
For the Reclaimer, we might do, but it's probably I mean, I guess anything that we would have from the Reclaimer would be pertinent information, but I could go looking for it right now.
Nah, it's fine.
Right.
I'll just put a yes or no in the video edit, or I'll forget. Who knows?
Oh, you forget. My money's on forget.
Really?
You're like, really?
Yeah.
Is that a challenge?
It's also very reminiscent of the little hover ships from the Matrix. What was it? Because you had people all over the place. It felt big inside.
Right.
Like multiple decks and, quite long and wide. So, like I said, people wouldn't be stepping over each other's toes all the time.
But my question is,
me.
How dedicated will people be to their roles? I mean, like, yes, the Reclaimer is a large ship and it's beautiful, and the landing gears are something that just, instill awe every single time you look at it. But like, how dedicated would you be to being, I'm the claw guy. I have 3,000 hours of claw in the Reclaimer. Like, how nuanced must the gameplay be for it to be, for you to say, this is what I do when when I'm not working, when I come back from work, I run the claw, like.
That would probably be down to choice, or the way a captain runs his ship. But I would say anybody below the pilot, which is a very specific skill, those roles could be interchanged. Like on Monday you're on the claw, on Tuesday on the tractor beam, on Wednesday you're the cook, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, like, I get what you're coming from. So like, most people aren't just going to just main you know, like the
Yeah.
claw on the ship, and they're gonna want to do different things. But like for
Mm.
a ship like the Reclaimer, which I'm guessing, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that it's going to, you know, like require a lot of in-game time and money in order to earn one in the first place and use it, and then
Mm.
more time still to make it profitable. You know, like you're gonna have to have considerable amounts of skill and know-how for it to work. And then again, you're gonna need to have 5 people, be it NPCs or not, in order to make it run efficiently.
Mm.
I just wonder like how things like running the refinery and stuff, how the gameplay in that's going to work. Because obviously they're going to require like little mini games or, you know, games within the ship for them to
Mhm.
be, you know, fun and engaging for any amount of time.
Yeah, because you wouldn't want some of the appeal. Well, the main appeal of the video game is that you are the hero.
Yeah,
You're not the janitor.
right.
But you know, the Squadron 42 does get you that.
Mm.
Um, and if you still want to do that in Star Citizen, I suppose you could always run a single player ship where everything is you're in charge of everything. Like if there is just a one person salvage ship, you would be in charge of piloting it and the tractor beams and the cutting it up. And although there probably wouldn't be a refinery on, you could just store stuff and drag it to a
Right.
refinery. I don't know. Same with
Yeah.
mining. Which is this the single player misc mining ship?
The
What is it
Prospector
called?
is the single
The
player one.
Prospector.
Yeah.
Yes, it doesn't have a refinery on board, does it? You
No,
just
but the
basically just
Orion
stock the
does.
minerals
Yeah. Yeah.
and then either sell them or deliver them to a refinery.
Yeah. But the Orion has one, and it has a refinery on it. And they did mention in, I believe, the Q&A or the initial briefing.
Yeah, but have you seen the size of the Orion?
But then again, I'm still talking about like what, as far as non-combat, what is a player going to have to do on that ship to be the refiner? I mean, I don't know, but I foresee like in ships, like unless of course you're running like an organization, like you know, a large org kind of like skirmish or something, where you know you're going to need to have a reclaimer out there and it needs to be working 100%, you know, like where there's no room for an NPC to lag about and wait and stuff. I have a feeling that reclaimer pilots in the game when it comes out, you know, like are going to be mainly on their own with NPCs, because the ship as itself, as a concept, it for me it seems like something that'd be very interesting to be the captain of, you know, to be
Yeah.
flying the ship and to be telling the NPCs and micromanaging them that way, and it'll never get boring. But if you're with somebody else and all you're literally doing is operating a claw, I don't think, you know, like
There is no wow factor in that. Yeah, I
yeah.
get what you mean. And I think the how the whole thing is separated into its tiny individual parts is much more different than how it is in other MMOs where you have classes like tank and
Yeah.
healer, because those are basically combat classes and they do have a big role, but like you said, just operating the claw all the time would get boring. You don't get the glamour in it, and why would you want to play a video game if you can't be the center of the universe?
I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. The ship as a whole looks so good.
Oh,
It
definitely,
looks,
yeah.
I mean, and the gameplay loop sounds like a lot of fun, especially like if you want to be a bit risky and do reclamation in hot zones and that kind of thing, for sure.
Unless you are 100% RPer,
Mm.
you know, with a claw operator just being one of the steps on your adventure.
Yeah, I mean, like, why not? I mean, I have a feeling that it's gonna be somewhat nuanced, you know. Like, I played the ISS, like the International Space Station, like simulator on VR, and there was one small mission where you had to operate the Canadarm and
Yeah.
and grab a payload and take it onto the station. And that was nerve-wracking, harrowing work, you know, because it's pretty finicky and stuff. And I feel like you know, if it is dangerous, if you could risk damaging the ship if you do it wrong, you know, if you have to get the claw in.
There's
and,
definitely have to be a quite a substantial reward for the what I can only imagine is a bit of a monotonous task in the
yeah.
game. So unless there is no reward, I think people will shy away from that. So you may be right in your original assertion that a lot of the crew on these ships will be NPCs.
Yeah, that doesn't necessarily shouldn't be a bad thing, you know. Like there'll be so many ships out there that have all these like random quirky tasks that will be filled by NPCs, but that players can do. I mean, on the topic of like multi-crew ships, the one ship that I want to see out soon, and but we'll see when we get it, is the Galaxy Starliner.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's another multi-crew ship, but it's a multi-crew on a whole new level because you have a pilot. Maybe you have a co-pilot as well for whatever reason. You'd need one in a game like this. We still don't know to what degree or what extent the flight mechanics and such are going to be in a ship like that anyway.
Yeah, but the rest of the multi-crew is basically cargo. It's passengers, yeah.
Not necessarily what I was going to go for, but yes, you will be able to play as the in-flight hosts and hostesses as well, if you wanted to. And they have already outlined like a mini game
with the mandatory miniskirts, right?
If you wanted to run that way, yeah, yeah, exactly.
For both genders, yes.
Just the men, actually.
Just the men? Okay.
Just the men.
You're right.
They wear them on their torsos. The future is strange, but like
30th century, everybody.
But they outlined a gameplay loop as an in-flight host where you'd walk around, you'd basically respond to an NPC's call, and you'd probably be judged by how fast you respond to it. They'd ask you for a drink, you'd take it to the mix master, the actual name they've called it, and then you like choose the mix of drink that they wanted. And ATVs ago, they showed off like this drink sloshing mechanic. So of course you have to be careful not to pour scalding Ratkagino on the passenger to your left before you take it to this person.
Now that you mention it, there are a lot weirder simulator games that people play. Like people play I Am Bread, where you are a piece of bread. And you play Surgeon Simulator, where with the most broken controls in any game ever. I think only I think was beaten by I Am Bread, which is by the same people. Bunch of sadists. But people do play those games. There's Goat Simulator, and a bunch of these games with really stupid and niche gameplay mechanics, and but not just mechanics, these scenarios that you can immerse yourself in, and people do play them. So yeah, I can totally see people RPing as stewardesses. Sure, why not? So long as there is a good reward for it.
Well, that would probably depend on whoever is the captain of the ship. But at the same time, I mean,
you don't want to know where my mind just went for that, but
okay. Do I or do I not?
No.
Okay.
It's also probably against Twitch terms of service, but okay, continuing.
All right. Well, I mean, like in terms of like the RP scene, role playing. If the role playing scene on Twitch is any indication, role playing is huge. I can see something like a Galaxy Starfarer being a huge thing for roleplay because, of course, with face over IP and voice over IP, people can just like roleplay wanting to be a passenger and trolling the hostess, saying my entertainment system's not working, and like that's actually another thing. So the gameplay loop for the host or hostess is drinks and also managing the entertainment system as well, which can go on the fritz, which is just ridiculous. But I could see that. I can see hours and hours and hours of fun being had on something like that, just for the role play aspect. And yeah, role play isn't for everybody, but I mean, that's just that's emerging gameplay. Like that's the nature of it. It's what you make of it.
And when there is a network of star systems and a network of these galaxy ships, you know what I want to do?
What?
I want to hitchhike across the galaxy on 30 Altarian dollars a day.
On 30 Altarian dollars a day.
Mm.
Okay.
It's a reference to the book. Read it. It's a great book.
I got that it was a reference. Are you gonna pull the book?
Yes.
Right.
Anyway, yes, the it's not a motto, but it's like one of the things associated with it is that you can see the wonders of the galaxy on just 30 Altarian dollars a day.
You know, I haven't seen the towel in game for a long time, actually. Because
Has it been removed from the hangars?
It might have been. I don't know. It's like a size 2 or something. So I don't know. I just haven't I haven't seen it for a long time.
Yeah. Well, I haven't been customizing because I saw it last when everything was still static, but once they changed all of that to be completely customizable, I just never bothered because it gets reset so often.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they fix that, actually, the resetting hanger flare thing, because it was nice to do that. But yeah, I mean, like, back to multi-crew, which is the topic of today's discussion. So, like,
well, I don't think we ever left, but okay.
No. Well, I mean, is hitchhiking a multi-crew thing?
It is if you are hitchhiking on multi-crew ships.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean,
but no, that would be a great RP thing. Like,
right.
If you want to go from one edge of UE space to the other one, and you want to do it as cheaply as possible, you would have to potentially offer your services as part of the crew.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
yeah. So you could, there's a reclaimer going from one system to the other, but they need to stop at several of these points to do some salvage. You may have to be the claw operator for that journey, and then the next jump, you get to be part of the Starfarer, for instance, and then you have to mop the floors or something like that.
Yeah. One day you're a lawman, the next you're a clawman.
Ooh. No. But that would actually probably have to be an RP thing only, because earning money in Star Citizen would probably be far too easy otherwise. Like, you would own a ship. You would probably have to do a lot of damage to get in so much debt that you'd have to maybe even sell your ship.
I think that it would have to be a self-imposed rule, poverty in Star Citizen, for sure, because just because of how they intend to make the game work. I mean, like, unless you were to trade somebody literally all your money and then see where you can go from there. But then with things like service beacons and such, and how they've been demonstrated in ATV, I don't think it'll be very difficult to earn even a small amount of money to then start independently trading, and then like yeah.
And especially because the ships bought with real money, you will keep forever, even when your insurance runs out.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic, actually, and one that I think was met with a lot of derision because it wasn't what people thought was the case. But you want
it would still take, if your insurance runs out, it will take much longer to get the ship back.
Yeah.
Than if you had insurance, which I think is the proper thing to do, because having paid so much money on digital ships only for them to be gone when they blow up, people would riot in the streets.
But they knew this getting in. Did they not? Did they not? Your ship comes with 3 months of insurance. Oh, goody. What does this mean? I don't care. I'm buying anyway. I mean, like, it's not even fine print.
No, it's not.
But I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. I mean, like,
it would be a nice way of doing it. Like, okay, your ship is still there and it's waiting for you, but you need to pay money to get it built.
Right. Real money or what money?
No.
Money?
In-game money.
Right.
And so if you have insurance, insurance pays for the chassis for the base ship, and then you have to buy all the attachments and the and the items for it. If you don't have
Yeah.
insurance, you also have to pay for the chassis to get it
Okay.
back.
Right.
It's always, it would probably have to be a lot less than actually buying the ship in game,
Okay.
though. Otherwise, it completely invalidates your actual purchase.
Right. That makes sense.
There's going to be a lot of balancing to do with that, but
Yeah.
it's one of those things where you suddenly find yourself without money and without a ship.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do then? You
Quit the
have to
game.
start looking for jobs
Right.
to earn money, and work on other people's ships to earn that money to be able to afford that ship back again.
Right. I mean, it'd be interesting if there were these poverty sinks that would eventually would kind of push people into the multi-crew kind of scenario. But then again, with a multiplayer game, I mean, how do you? I've played multiplayer games. I've played Daisy. I don't think I have the capacity to trust anymore. You know, like
Well, that sounds like a you problem.
and it will soon be yours. I promise you. You know, if
I
you want to
don't
allow
play
hitchhikers on your
Daisy.
carrick.
Yeah. Well, what sort of damage do you think they could do? Like, they'll be screened for weapons. So
They'll be screened for weapons, but I mean, okay, so
well, then again, in real life, you can kill somebody with a teaspoon and a lot of perseverance. I will give you that.
Right,
You don't need a pistol or an assault rifle.
yeah, I mean, it depends on how tight a ship you keep. I mean, you on a ship like a carrack, I mean, ships like even the Herald have weapon stands and stuff. I mean, on a carrack, you might even have an armory, a small one, maybe a weapons locker. If you let a hitchhiker onto your ship and you've decided, oh well, or you forgot even to lock access to it or make it so that they have to have a specific access, right? Or you give the hitchhiker access by accident through the through the service beacon, you're gonna have some trouble because mutiny. Because he could you could be doing something on the car. I don't know, like dicking around calibrating the engines or something.
I think that is going to be a system that has to be very carefully put in place. That access is given, not taken away. Like by default, people have zero access to the ship, and then you choose what you give them access to. But I wanted to attach something else onto this.
Okay.
Something that I think CIG needs to add to the game, like advanced tier of handheld weapons that is biometrically locked to the owner.
Okay, I think
Like a
Judge
Judge Dredd type of pistol.
Yeah.
DNA locked to normal weapons. Sure, everybody can pick it up, and claim it and fire it. But if you are running a high-end ship that has weapons lockers, apart from actually locking those lockers and not giving everybody access to them, you would probably want to stock those lockers with weapons that only certain people have access to, because then you can mutiny is always a possibility, and psychotic hitchhikers also.
I mean like yeah, why not, why not?
How is that for a tangent?
It makes sense because we're talking about multi-crew and how hitchhikers can affect the the status quo on a multi-crew ship. So the tangent still flows. It's a parallel tangent.
It's a tier 1 tangent. It's not a tangent on a tangent on a tangent like we usually do.
Like that one.
Like that one, yeah.
But locking a ship, I mean locking a gun to another from players by making them, like as you say, DNA locked or whatever.
Which could probably still be bypassed by a specialist if you take it to somewhere carefully.
Yeah, it feels like something that you'd have to I don't know, it might be going a step too far,
Well, it could be something that's introduced later in the game after it's been released by a specialist weapons maker, someone very high end like Origin is for the ships.
Right. I feel like though, in terms of just in-game lore, it's not too far off because you
Hmm.
armistice zones in Olisar and such stop you from firing ballistic weapons. So like
It goes further than that. They actually prevent you from, picking up a weapon and, pointing at somebody's face. I think it's mind control.
mm, mm, could be. But yeah, I mean, like,
But armistice
yeah,
zones are a temporary thing until there's a proper what did they
security
call it?
system in
Security
place.
system in place that actually is more retaliatory than it is the other thing.
Right. I don't necessarily. I don't see how do you think they'll do this? Turrets, just big, mean, frowny turrets, like in every corridor, or what?
Um, could do, or turrets that pop out of the ground or the ceiling. I think the Fifth Element had those that was nice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you remember the scene where they were boarding the shuttle to Floston Paradise, and
Sure.
sure, and things happened, and if you didn't place your hands in the yellow circles for a scan, turrets would come down and shoot you dead.
Right.
But otherwise they're hidden in the ceiling or in the floor or whatever.
Or security guards
Until
as well. Yeah.
security guards could do. But I think an automated system would be much more efficient. An AI control one or whatever, until you start exhibiting aggressive acts or tendencies to perform an aggressive act. Like if you pull out a gun
Mm-hmm.
in what is now an armistice zone,
Mm.
then the security system is alerted and turrets start, at least, following you, if
Mm.
not immediately aiming at you and telling you to put the gun away, and or we make you Swiss cheese.
Yeah, it's hilarious actually. Like the entirety of Twitch chat's just going like, you mean like the Altered Carbon Raven security turrets?
Yeah, I wasn't gonna go there because I didn't want to spoil anything, but I was,
Yeah.
some people haven't watched Altered Carbon, and
But that's
those
not a
who
spoiler.
haven't,
Saying Raven security
go.
turret's not a spoiler.
Okay, I suppose, but I feel like everybody's seen the Fifth Element at this point, and it's basically
Right.
the same thing.
Right on. Okay.
Hmm.
Mm.
But
So
yeah, I think a system like that would be nicer, especially because it is not infallible. It
mm,
can be beaten, which is something that needs to be in game, because every system has to have a flaw in it. Otherwise, it's not fun. I mean,
mm,
if you want to be the bad guy, if you want to be like on the very bottom rung, and you want to just wreak havoc everywhere, if you want to be a terrorist and blow yourself up in the middle of Port Olisar, you have to have at least a tiny sliver of a chance to be able to do so without exploiting glitches in the game code. I feel that.
Do you think that terrorism in Star Citizen is something that should be allowed? I mean, like that kind of thing. I
That
mean,
is
you've
a
opened that can
question
of
for a
worms.
much more, yeah. It could possibly befall in the same category as killing children, which is completely illegal in games.
Right.
I don't know. It is an 18+ game. A lot of things are
Right.
allowed.
Okay. All right. Matt Sherman in chat says automated turrets are their own implicit issue because of them being automated and AI driven. There's such a passive, no low risk function comparatively. Yeah. And also I think in Star Citizen, like AIs being that autonomous is something that is kind of frowned on in the lore.
Mhm.
Like in Port Olisar, there are books on the floor everywhere talking about like what is good AI and what is bad AI and what's allowed and what's not allowed.
Right, but the game code wise, the only difference between a security officer and an automated turret is that one is connected to the floor.
Mm. I mean, like, I don't know. I like the idea of the UEE having a very Battlestar Galactica-esque kind of view on tech, because it kind of makes people have to think a little bit more about how to go about doing things. You know, things have to be a bit more manual. It's why you know, to go back to the beginning, it's why something like the Reclaimer needs 5 people to work properly and not just completely automated. They've only just in recent development news, they've only just recently kind of like conceded and allowed for the slaving of turrets to seats without you having to be in the turret. Whereas initially you had to be in the turret because those computer systems weren't allowed or whatever. But you know,
Right. So would it actually be proper AI or just like VI, like virtual intelligence? Like you have in Mass Effect, you have virtual intelligence, like VIs that are simpler computer interface programs that respond to verbal input and then have a specific set of outputs. And then you have AI, and for people who haven't played Mass Effect Andromeda, there is actual AI that can think on its own and learn and adapt and stuff like that.
I think in Star Citizen there's no Geth like AI presence.
Oh yeah, actually the Geth. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah,
Completely forgot about that because there's no Geth in Andromeda. There's other things, but hey.
No, there's no Geth like AI presence in Star Citizen. There is you know, there's some sort of there's a certain degree of automatedness, but I don't think that like in BSG, I mean, like computer systems and stuff aren't necessarily like linked as, you know, like as they would be in real life because of the risk of being hacked, because e-war and such, as they've talked about before, is something that could, you know, easily take down an entire system. In fact, and I think this is going to be the 4th time I've referenced this specific piece of lore, there is a pirate which we might find in the game, huge bounty on her head, called the Gasper, because her like MO was to use e-war like spikes to hack people's ships and stations and basically seize control of their life supports, and then basically you know, like you're gasping here. So
I can imagine. Yeah.
So she releases control of your life support when you give her the money. And she was a kind of like a low like I guess priority criminal, until one day she decided to like basically do her thing on like a Grim Hex style station, old decrepit kind of station, or maybe Levski-esque even. And you know, they gave her the money, and because their systems were so old, even though she gave them control again, because it took so long for the life support to spool back up, they all died. And so she's now supremely wanted. So, you know, yeah, AI
that's actually, you know, lore-wise, that is actually very interesting. In-game mechanics-wise, could that be done? Like, if you have a very... let's say you have a Reclaimer, but you're not really up on maintenance, and things keep breaking up, and it's basically a pad job on pad jobs on pad jobs. And if somebody does do that, could it actually go awry?
Maybe. I mean, like, as Kirk Tomei said, in yesterday's Calling All Dens.
Kirk, not Mark.
I said Kirk. Tomei.
Thank you. I know. I said Mark.
All right.
Before I said Mark, and I apologize, Kirk. If you're watching this, probably not, but I apologize for calling you Mark. There's too many. There's too many. There's like 400 plus. Even Disco's the same. Anyway, you were saying,
as you said, all the different fixings and ideas for e-war are still in the pipeline, and so maybe, yeah, like you'll be able to like use a data spike and hack somebody's ship and turn off those systems the way that you kind of can do at the moment by standing behind somebody, pressing F, and then like toggling the switches. But you know,
that is supremely hilarious. That you can do that.
Yeah, it's basically what e-war is going to be, but without the need to
without the Benny Hill feeling to it.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, back to multi-crew.
Back to reality.
We talked a lot about the Reclaim already.
Mm.
Big ship, disgustingly beautiful, and it's like
and disgusting as well because
yeah.
it's run down. It's been used.
It's interesting though, isn't it, that you're buying a brand new ship used?
Yeah, it's
Like,
interesting that they made an Aegis ship though, because it looks completely unlike any other Aegis ship out there.
I mean, we haven't really seen any Aegis ships of that size though, you know? Like, I mean, like, what interior wise, design language wise, I guess it is Egypt.
I think it is very old though.
Yeah.
Because the interior is it also has a very Alien and Nostromo feel to it.
Yeah, I think that was like a direct kind of like that's what they wanted. Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, but it looks nothing like the interiors. But even the Idris is centuries old design, and it looks much more modern than that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a different like conversation altogether. Like in terms of like these ships and like how old they are, and like you're buying these ships, and like I mean, in present day, like you can buy like whatever car, and like depending on the year, like they're constantly being manufactured, and that kind of thing, right? Whereas in this ship, you're basically it's weird because in the lore, like ship manufacturing is very similar to car manufacturing, but you're buying just one model, and everybody has this one model, even though in the lore it's like, yeah, there is a 2942 model. Yeah, there is a 2945 model, but I don't know. I'm guessing there's a 29. I'm guessing whatever ship we have is the present ship, even though things like the Avenger are supposed to be, as you say, centuries to decades old, even.
Yeah, I think it's. There's a few inconsistencies in the entire grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Making things centuries old. Like, you don't see navies still using steamboats these days, do you?
Right. Yeah.
Like when technology progresses, old shit's scrapped.
Well, I mean, I guess that's why like the military in Star Citizen or the Navy or whatever are going to be having the F7CMs or whatever, the military versions and the military spec ships, and everybody else basically just has whatever was, like I guess that makes sense to a certain degree. Because
although,
the civilians
does that mean that the general spacefaring technology in the Star Citizen universe hasn't made any progression in for however long the oldest ship in service is?
Maybe at least not commercially, but military wise, yes, because there is going to be a military spec at Lightning that no one can get. There's going to be a military spec Hornet, and so on and so forth. So those are probably most likely going to look sleeker and more cutting edge and that kind of thing. Yeah. So I feel like
but like I said, they say the Idris is over 100 years old. So has nothing been done, or is it like retrofit number 75 already for the UE Stanton?
I mean, it'd be awesome. Yeah,
which is one of the oldest, probably.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to get a lore master like in a feature to maybe probe them a tiny bit more about this. That'd be
or
amazing.
On the show, on our very own show,
that's
and just
what I
poke
said.
him.
On a feature.
Oh, right, on a feature, right?
Yeah.
Not like
Yeah. Yes. No, that would be awesome. Just to clarify tiny bits of information like that.
There you go. Okay. Plot hole number 965. Explain.
Oh man. But so what is your favorite or sorry, I know what your favorite ship is and everything else, but just to keep things on topic, and I think we're kind of coming to a close now in terms of the topic for the podcast. But what multi-crew role are you most looking forward to doing? Besides being a pilot.
No, I actually don't. Piloting has never been something that grabbed me. Because, ever since I bought the Carrack, I always said that, you're going to be the pilot.
Right.
well, the captain decides where to go.
Right.
That's always fun, like calling the shots. But if you're taking the Carrick, which is my, and which is the end game for me, and I will do it properly, even though I own it. I won't just, get it out of the box on day one and fly off into space. I want to legitimately get a system in place that will let me not only earn it, but maintain it and crew it, even if it's NPCs only. I don't know yet. Maybe a science officer on an exploration ship to go somewhere where nobody's gone before, which is something the Carrick is supposed to do, as it is a jump point exploration or charting or whatever it is, something to do with jump points.
I wonder how the science end of gameplay loop. I think we'll just call it game. How that's gonna pan out, because science is such a broad topic, right?
Yeah.
Like I wonder how that's gonna be. Is this gonna be like you go next to a plant and press use, or is it like you have to use it? Yeah, I mean, like I wonder. For it to be fun and for it to be something that you can say, this is what I do.
Yeah, like that. See this thing, because I would love for it to be very intricate and almost
Like a
lifelike.
game. Yeah, okay.
But not like a game where you're there's a bunch of QuickTime events.
You're playing Dr. Mario.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
It would actually have to involve skill.
Right.
I would love that in a sort of scanning or or advanced scanning for planetary surfaces or spatial anomalies. I would love that. And here is, my sort of view, or like a narrow corridor into the Star Citizen universe, because I wouldn't mind a very intricate and complex way of doing that, just like some people wouldn't mind a very intricate and complex way of salvaging,
Right.
gameplay for salvage. So, maybe.
So would you be content?
Like we said like we talked about before, for us at least, operating a claw would be a very mundane thing to do. But like there's people who spend hours a day playing Euro Truck Simulator, and maybe there's people who want, above all else, to grab a ship and pull it towards.
I mean, I've seen people play Flight Simulator on Twitch and stuff, but that is so nuanced, because like every single toggle and switch and everything works, and there's a difference between that and just saying I'm gonna take off from Daymar and land in Olisar. Like there isn't much to do apart from as in terms of being in terms of complexity, in
terms of complexity,
yeah, because the more complex the action, then I guess the more you can get out of it,
yeah, operating a piece of machinery, a complex piece of machinery, is part of the reward in its own. Yeah.
Would you be content if, say, something like science, or at least one branch of science, like maybe using the spectrometer, whatever it is, on a galaxy, not a galaxy, on a what is it called again? The science vessel, the MISC one,
the MISC one, Endeavor. Yeah, the Endeavor, yeah.
Would you be satisfied if science on that ship, like using that science thing, if the only gameplay loop on the thing like that is literally just like Sudoku,
or the golf ball thing?
No, not golf ball, just like Sudoku. Like, but just graphical Sudokus instead of numbers.
A graphical Sudoku.
Randomized graphical Sudoku.
Spoilers.
Okay.
In Mass Effect Andromeda, there is actually a graphical Sudoku for unlocking what's called remnant technology.
Okay. All right, so it's already been done.
It's already been done. Yeah.
Somebody hire me. Obviously, I'm having the same ideas.
It's not a 3x3 grid. It's a 2x2 only. So it's
right.
like it's simpler Sudoku.
Okay.
but it's still Sudoku.
But it's still graphical Sudoku. Right.
Yeah.
Interesting that someone had the same idea.
Yeah. And it's not as crap as it seems. However, it does get boring quickly.
Right.
So maybe I wouldn't be content with just that.
Okay.
Because it doesn't, well, at least in that case, because what its implementation in Mass Effect Andromeda is basically a lock that you need to find a combination for. But for the Endeavor, it doesn't fit the narrative of what you're trying to do. It would need to, if you're doing something with a spectrometer, I think there would have to be a spectral analyzer that you interact with and then have a puzzle based on that.
Right.
Sure. Or if you're monitoring something on the terrain, that would probably have to be like a two-dimensional puzzle that you need to organize in a certain way that it makes a shape. I don't know. It would have to be contextual.
Okay.
Sudoku, like, if it's breaking into something and you have to unlock the pattern and to unlock the lock, sure, just have to make it contextual, and I probably wouldn't mind a simple puzzle. However, we'll see where it goes, because everybody completely revolted against the golf ball swing, which is like the simplest of simple puzzles. Where is the not difficulty level, but the complexity of the game mechanic for these very specific tasks that CIG will actually end up settling on?
Played a game recently called Osiris New Dawn, and repairing or advanced repairing of objects and vehicles is a golf ball swing, and it works pretty well. And it works pretty well.
Yeah, but isn't Osiris New Dawn like a console game originally?
It's not a console game originally, but it is an indie game that it has a console port. But still, I mean, like, it works, I mean, like, there's only so much like you can do before it just becomes excessive. And I think it worked well. Basically how it worked is that you have this this arc, like a semicircle, and you press the button to repair, and then the dial goes from one end to the other. And the semicircle is segmented into like basically different like percentages of repair. So like 5% is one wedge, and then one wedge is 10%, then 0, then 50, then 0, then
right, and you have to press again when it reaches a certain area. So it's basically like in Gears of War you had fast reload. You
like
press,
that, but more segments.
You press reload, and then if you press it again at this very specific time, it would basically just all fall into place, and you reload it twice as fast.
Exactly, and it worked for me. Like it didn't really seem like something that I would go up in arms for if it existed in Star Citizen, for instance.
Yeah, but thing is, Star Citizen has always been about pushing the boundaries, and you would want there to be a cutting edge to everything. It's asking a lot of the developers, and if there's anybody in chat alongside Matt Sherman, I apologize, but yes, you're the ones who kind of are responsible for this, for making us dream big, for making such a fantastic game in the first place.
I like the statement from Matt on this topic. He says the challenge for most of the in-game activities and how the challenge for most of the in-game activities and how to abstract their concepts into tangible gameplay is also making sure that the systems don't ever build any sort of in real life knowledge set as a requirement. For instance, hacking, electronic warfare can't require you to already know in real life coding or concepts to be passable at it.
That is a very good point. And also, you don't want it to be too mundane for most people to just shrug off, like, this is too complex for me. Why should I bother? It's ridiculous. There has to be... See, this is why it's taking so long, because there's so many considerations to take into consideration. Is it fun? Like, Is it complex enough? Is it not too simple? Is it representative of the thing you're doing? Like, you don't want Sudoku for planetary scanning. You just don't.
Yeah.
But yes, you have to make it fun as well as challenging. And then, like Matt Sherman said, having in real life knowledge of a task should not make you like innately adept at it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Or should it? Or should it?
I personally don't think so. I think that if you did that, then obviously there'd be a barrier to entry for some people in terms of like accessibility and learning it and being able to do it themselves and that kind of thing.
Right.
Mm.
Well, then again, you know, being a surgeon doesn't really help you with Surgeon Simulator, does it?
I mean, like, I've never played Surgeon Simulator before. I think it's a weird game, but I guess
it's very silly, and maybe you should actually play it on stream, because you haven't torn down your green screen in Rage in very long time, and I miss it.
Is it a rage-inducing game?
Oh, yes, it is. Oh, it so is.
Right. Nah, I mean, the reason why I have personal reasons as to why I wouldn't play it, but I'll take your word for it.
or I Am Bread, which has to be played with a controller.
Okay.
Just has to. Keyboard control is completely useless.
Right.
And I have seen near vein popping rage on YouTube from people who have played it.
Playing I Am Bread.
I Am Bread, yes.
All right, I'll look into that one. That sounds interesting for sure.
You're basically a piece of bread, and you are in one part of an apartment, for instance.
Okay.
And a heat source is in the other part of the apartment, and the goal is to get toasted. And then you control all four corners of the slice of bread.
Okay.
In two ways. Either you move it or you grab onto it, something. So you have 8 controls.
Right. Like Octodad.
Yep.
Okay.
Anyway, enough of that tangent.
That was a tangent. That was
a tangent, yes. Holy crap.
Tangent. But so yeah, Matt says no, in-game like
in real life knowledge should never be a prerequisite.
Never. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
well, his word is law.
No, I mean, like, but I guess in terms of gameplay, I'm behind that. Just because I think that wait, why aren't you behind that is my question.
Because let me compose my sentence. Because like if you've done something for a while and you're good at it, there should be a way in which you have an edge at it. Like, being good at first-person shooters should make you good at combat in Star Citizen, right?
Sure, but that's being good at one game, being a transferable skill to being good in another game.
No, but it's not though, because being good, like it shouldn't be that being good with guns should make you good with combat in Star Citizen, but being good with a genre of video game should make you better as in a role such as a mercenary for hire, for instance.
In another game. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that is... it's kind of difficult to say it's an in real life knowledge or skill because it's video games, but it is still being good at video games should make you good at being good at a video game. It's very difficult to put into words.
I feel like if you were to do something like coding or something in Star Citizen, you'd have to base it off a code that doesn't exist anywhere else.
Yeah,
and you'd have to make it simple enough, and you'd have to make it accommodating enough.
But yeah, because that is a very complex thing in itself. Like, yeah,
right.
I think the line shouldn't be as sharply set as as some people would want it to be. It's
Okay.
slightly blurred, but because if you take one side of it, like no in real life skill should benefit you in the game, then that puts a lot of work on your hands, like creating completely new systems for just about everything.
Mm. Okay. I get where you're coming from.
It's probably a topic for a completely new episode that has not seen me imbibe as much beer as I have so far.
Fair enough. So I guess I'll ask myself the question I asked you, which was, what would I want to do multi-crew wise?
Yeah, okay, that's a very good question.
I think you mentioned it actually. I think I'd like to try a bit captaining a multi-crew ship, because I've seen captaining work in a really interesting way in things like Star Trek Bridge, and before that Optimus Bridge Simulator. And I think having all your fingers in all the pies on a ship like that, being able to see what's happening and being able to not necessarily micromanage, but at least understand and coordinate and orchestrate all those things so it works well, would be something that's really cool. Now, my only fear for a thing like that is that, like, when it comes to a bunch of gamers, it tends to be like herding sheep when you want to do something that's like really fine-tuned. You need to have like a group of like-minded people who want to do that same thing. You know, like, in order to have fun in Armor, like, for instance, I mean, like, you either need to have a bunch of friends who think exactly like you and can goof when you want to goof, or you need to have like just like complete straight-laced like milsim people to like have fun, because then like everything works the way it should work, and you know, it works well. But that being said, you can always have NPCs to do certain jobs that like players will either be too slow at.
So you basically want to be a CO and XO in one. Making the decisions and telling people what to do. Which is another thing. Like, do you think there will be a lot of people who, like, for instance, on an Idris, when it's finally in the game, do you think there will be a lot of people who would actually go to the lengths of having such an extensive hierarchy of having a CO and then an XO and then everybody else below?
Sorry, can you repeat that question one more time, please?
Right.
Yeah.
When ships like the Idris, you know, of such complexity are out, do you think there will be people who would actually want to go to the lengths of having a CO and then an XO and then everybody below?
Catch this. Before Star Citizen, I used to play a bunch of Armor, and I was in a milsim group, and we'd be on like we'd be split into ranks and such. The longer you played, you ranked up and stuff, and people. When a high-ranking person would come into the voice channel, the current highest person, who's like in like private first class or something, would be like, "All right, silence comms," and then they'd be like, "Lieutenant on deck," and everybody has to go lieutenant. I mean, like, it was super like both lame but cool at the same time. It was like just that like yes, most definitely there'll be people like that. Most definitely. Like
would you want to be part of the chain?
No, me now as a streamer, no, because it's not kind of like, it's not conducive to streaming. But otherwise, maybe, yeah. But like,
so maybe a much more condensed chain of authority.
Yeah,
or like chain of command. Yeah,
because in a ship like the Idris, you have your CEO's office, you have your captain's bedroom, your captain's quarters in the Hammerhead as well. I can see those things. You have briefing rooms as well. I can see those things being used as their intended purpose, no problem. Like when I played Armor, for instance, we had like these custom maps where like there'd be a marquee with several rows of seats, and there would literally be hundreds of us sitting on these seats as this guy paces up and down going, "All right, people, we better tie your shoelaces. We're going to go to the AO." And he just pointed this like blank wall saying, "We're going to do it." Like people would do that. You know, like nerds, you know, turbo nerds are out there, and I was one of them for a long time.
Right, so maybe not as a streamer, but, you know, off stream?
Either off stream or like, if I find a bunch of people who just want to role play that way, like you can easily make an episodic or like a show or something like that on Twitch with that kind of
right, because
yeah.
the Idris does support that sort of complexity, because
Oh,
you do
yeah.
have the captain, you have the EXO, and then you have everybody on the
briefing room as
bridge.
well.
The briefing, yeah.
The tactical room as well. Yeah, well, the tactical portal. I mean, like
Mm.
yeah.
How many people on the Idris? Like 90, 80, 90, something like that?
86 or something in Squadron, but
Yeah.
I don't
Like
think
in
there'll be 86 people.
Star Citizen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in
in
Star
Star
Citizen.
Citizen it will be less, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a much more condensed chain of command, but still it does support that. Although being just the captain, just deciding what to do, and then telling the EXO what needs to be done, and then the EXO deciding.
In Star Citizen, well, I mean, how I imagine being the captain of a ship in SC being, did you just like feel your phone for no reason? How much have you gone through?
But not for no reason.
Right. Okay. But like in Star Citizen, right? Like I imagine the captain's role, because we haven't seen it yet, to be very similar to that of Star Trek Bridge, where like you basically see an overview of every other role on the ship, and like ship status, ship health, and what people are doing, what needs to be done. You can't actively do things yourself, but you can tell you tell people to do it, and you are basically the connect to everybody else. So
that is the EXO, though.
Is it?
Yeah.
Not in Star Trek Bridge.
Right, not in Star Trek Bridge Simulator, because Star Trek has a much more, well, at least the Bridge Simulator has a much more, like I said, condensed chain of command. But if you take the Next Generation, for instance, Picard is the CEO, Riker is the EXO.
Okay.
Picard decides, tells Riker goes to all department chiefs and tells them what needs to be done. And the department chiefs make sure it's done. So that's how it goes. In Star Trek Bridge Simulator, it's much more the original series sort of thing, where you had Kirk, and then you had the bridge crew, and Kirk was both CO and XO at the same time, I'd say.
Right. In which case...
There was no first officer, no XO.
Right. Okay. In which case, yeah, CO XO role condensed, because I think that too many links in the chain of command in a game like SC might, I mean, on one ship alone might be a bit much, because we expect like large ship battles and such to be a thing. So I think it'd be a bit much.
Yeah,
be a bit much.
Yeah. Well, that was my original question, which was such complex chain of command.
Yeah. So I just checked the ship matrix, actually. So the skeleton crew on the Idris, to make sure that it works at least as intended, 8 people. Maximum crew, 28.
Right. Okay. So it won't be as complex as in Squadron 42, but in Squadron 42 you have shifts. Because not everybody is up 24/7.
Yeah.
So that is where the redundancy comes from.
Yeah. So that's still 40 people doing tasks instead of 28, because 28.
Well, 56. Yeah. Well, there's only one captain. There's only one XO. But everybody else could be doubled, I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't know. We don't have the address yet. I wish to have the address, but we don't have it yet. So we can only speculate.
Right.
Which was the point, which is like the reason why we have this thing called the Fortnightly Frontier. Anyway. Oh, jeez. Do you think we've blabbered on for quite enough?
I think so. Well, I mean, in closing, I can't wait to see.
As Jacko
more.
said, it's close to midnight.
It is, yeah.
And evil things are lurking in the dark.
But yeah, I can't wait to see what they come up with next in terms of like a multi-crew and just like brushing up certain like gameplay loops for them, and like at least bringing them to the forefront. Like we're getting the Reclaimer very soon. Kara Coen.
It is probably, now that the Cutlass is finally properly in the game,
Mm.
I think it is the most desired ship of the Star Citizen community.
Yeah. I feel like personally,
Or is that the Banner Merchantman?
mm,
I think it's like a 50-50.
I think so too.
Mm.
Personally, I want to see more systems and such in item 2.0 linked before we even get into these like auxiliary roles and
Oh,
such.
definitely, yes.
Yeah, like actually having that second person in your seat being able to activate like an arm missiles for you and such. I can't wait for those things to happen. And we're very close because the systems are in place now. We just need to get it ready. But yeah.
Exciting. And 3.1 patch. If they get it out in, what is it, like 11 days from today?
If everything is good, yeah.
If everything is good, yeah. That is, for those who don't know, it is the Cyclone and it is the Aegis Reclaimer that will be released along with a lot of other things.
Yes.
That we can't talk about.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, like
being an avocado has its downfalls.
Does.
I don't know what I'm not allowed to talk about, so I'm not gonna talk about anything.
Yeah, NDA,
Hashtag NDA.
NDA. Yeah. Before I get a mail tomorrow morning, it's just like guacamole. Oh, I know what I've done. Like they're gonna come after me.
Yeah, we're not saying anything. Nope. But anyway, shall we?
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Fortnightly Frontier. Thank you all so much for watching. This has been this has been broadcast to a live Twitch audience at over at twitch.tv/Myre, and of course, those watching on YouTube, you missed out on our Twitch chat,
which was actually quite lovely this time around.
Yeah. So, Darj, any closing words? Oh yes.
Yeah.
Fortnightly Frontier 100. So we're still.
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah,
yes.
We're still running a giveaway for this beautiful thing, which is gonna pop up in post production. A Cyclone RNLTI to celebrate our 100th episode of Fortnightly Frontier. So we have quite a few entrants in already. So don't hesitate to enter and get in to win it. Because it's a cool ship.
It's running until the end of April. No, not April. No.
This month.
End of March.
The
end of this month.
March 2018.
Right. And I don't know how Gleam actually announces winners. If it tells just the people who started the giveaway, or does it automatically notify the person who won? But if that's not the case, we will be announcing the winner in the very first episode in April. So do follow us on the social medias, links below in the doobly-doo, and whatever, to get notified on when that is. And until then, I have been Darjanator.
And I have been Myre.
And this has been the Fortnightly Frontier.
And we will see you
in the verse.